Hello, Blindspot fans, and welcome to another episode of the AFTERBUZZ TV Blindspot After Show. Today we are looking at episode 19 in the Comet of Us, anagram to Focus on the Time. We'll see you after the opening.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
So I picked this song for a reason, and that reason is I totally won a bet tonight, ladies and gentlemen. One of the last things that we see in this episode is Tom the vampire's body in cold storage. So I'm super happy about that. Unfortunately, as you may have noticed, the person whom I was betting against is not here tonight. Stephanie is on her own secret mission tonight. She will be back next week. In the meantime, I'm Katie Cullen. You can follow me on Twitter at Kiaxet. That's Kiaxet. I'm also checking the hashtag, that is ABTV Blindspot, and we'll have the live chat up in just a few minutes. So I am definitely taking your comments tonight, because tonight you guys are my co-hosts, because I am doing this on my lonesome. So what did we think of the episode tonight? The episode tonight was amazing and also hurt my heart. It's one of those episodes where I really wish that I had been able to, usually because we tape on Tuesday nights, we watch Blindspot a day later, so I just finished watching it and then we came in here to recap it. So this is one of those episodes where I really wish that I watched it last night and had the 24 or so hours to just kind of ruminate on it and let it settle. Because school shootings are a really hard thing to deal with, you guys. And I guess that's your trigger warning for the night, but I assume that if you're watching this, you've seen the episode and you already know what happened. So yeah, that personally, this is a tough thing to watch. I was in middle school in Colorado when Columbine happened, and the anniversary of that was last week. So that's not something you forget about super easily. And so this is a very tough thing to hear about, tough thing to watch. And then on a show like Blindspot, where they are very, very good at the details and very, very good at showing you just the right things at just the right moment to really, really hurt your heart. So this episode was really interesting, really well put together. I love the way they split the 4 different people. I love the way they did the 4 different routes. And I love the timing that they did for them, using the active shooter announcement as a measure of time to show, okay, this is happening concurrent to this, concurrent to this. And then for the later stories, using the explosion also as a measure of time. I think this was extremely cleverly written. It was very well acted, very well edited. It was a very well put together episode. It was also extremely difficult to watch just because of the content, and twofold for the content, because we had a school shooting as a result of ongoing sexual abuse. Like, guys, this is not an easy show to watch sometimes. It really, really isn't. So yeah, the procedural part of our story is woven in fairly well with the personal, so I think I will dabble on the personal first. We're going to start at the end because, yeah, Tom the vampire is extremely super dead, because you don't survive cold storage. It doesn't work that way. Walt Disney's head is not in a vault somewhere. We haven't invented functional cryogenics. Like, no, he is super dead. So, yay. Go me. Somebody owes me a bottle of wine next week. But yeah, that's a thing. Goodness knows what Oscar was thinking about it, because he may or may not be getting cold feet because of his relationship with Jane. I rather like the idea of Jane, well, I don't like tea. No, you just haven't had the right kind of tea. That is absolutely correct. If you don't like tea, you're not doing it correctly. You need to try it differently. And I say that as someone who started out not liking tea. But yes, they are starting to get this very personal relationship. Oscar wants to back out because he thinks that his personal relationship with Jane is compromising the mission. And Jane pretty much does not want him to go. I wrote it down. What did it say? Who you are and who we are together doesn't make you the wrong person for the job. It makes you the only person for the job. She says she feels safe with him. He knows who she is. He's helping her become who she used to be. Like, This is definitely a ship that is taking off. This is definitely one to watch, and one that Jane is becoming very emotionally dependent on. And sadly enough, I'm kind of waiting for that to crash and burn before the finale hits. 1, because I'm that kind of person, and 2, because this show doesn't really like to let anything lie ever. So yeah, that is a thing that, God, I feel so bad for Jane just going through all of this. We actually start off with Mayfair. We start up where we left off last episode with Sophia in her backseat going, "Hi, surprise, I'm not actually dead. How are you doing?" I have to say this, Totem Psy Clinic in the chat talking about how Patterson is a D&D player. I saw that, I laughed, I am super happy. I would be down for a D&D group with Ashley Johnson. Like, yes, sign me up. I haven't had a D&D group since college. I miss it. And for those of you asking, Alexis is not in the booth. She is out tonight. So it's a solo mission tonight, ladies and gentlemen. So you're listening to me for the next God knows how many minutes. Yes. So we have Sophia showing back up to talk with Mayfair and say, hey, I actually was hiding out in Paraguay. They hunted me down. They found me. I need a passport. I need a way out. I need to keep running. Essentially, I need money. And Mayfair essentially cleans out her savings to the tune of $48,000, gives it to Sophia, and Sophia says, come on, run away with me. We can leave. And Mayfair basically tells her, your second chance is if you stay here, and only if you stay here. Otherwise, get out of my house, don't come back. And Sophia, fearing for her life, gets out of her house and doesn't come back. So I'm sure we'll see her again. People don't just disappear into the ether on this show. They die. They show up in flashbacks, or evidently they fake their own deaths and they wander back in the backseat of people's cars. Like, this is how this occurs on this show. No one's really dead until they show up in cold storage. So got that all figured out. Yay. Ouch. I'd love to see more of the woman that Mayfair met in the bar and shared that $1,200 bottle of wine with. Like, where did she go? Can she come back? I would appreciate that. We have Jane and Oscar. We have Mayfair and Sophia. I'm cheating to where my notes are. Zapata's backstory. Wow. That, I can't say I'm surprised, but almost everyone seems to have this really unhappy backstory, and I just feel bad for everyone. Evidently, she used to be a cop at the 96th precinct, words. She and her partner were called in on a domestic call. The wife was all beat up. Her partner was talking with the husband. The husband pulled a gun out of the couch and shot them both. And Zapata obviously did not handle it well. And part of her issue was that she was having a very rough time with it. Part of the issue was that it was a very random death. And so when she was gambling, she felt like she was better able to control the numbers. Even when she was losing, it was on her terms. She knew the rules. And then, as we know, it got out of her control. And we see her at what we assume is a Gamblers Anonymous meeting. So good for her for taking that step. That, the first step is admitting you have a problem, all that fun stuff. But that is not an easy thing to do. The first step is always the hardest. And so seeing Zapata take it, admittedly taking it too late to save herself from trouble, first with Tom the Vampire and then with Jerk the DA, whose name I can't remember and don't particularly care to because he was Sir not appearing in this episode. Yeah. So it's good to see her take that step, and it's definitely interesting to see her backstory. So Zapata, I think, was definitely kicking it this episode. Weller, we didn't see a lot of personal life stuff with him, but we didn't really need to because we've had a lot of his personal life. So we just see that we have moved Dad and his hospital bed and his in-home nurse into Weller's home. So we're kind of back to having a very full house sort of situation. But that's what Weller wants. And Dad is just happy that he has this time with his son before he passes, that he didn't pass away with his son believing that he was responsible for Taylor's disappearance. So yeah, personal times. And let's talk about the procedural part of the episode, which is, the fuller 80%. A couple of the producers were going on Twitter saying that they based this episode on Rashomon. And for those of you who don't know what that is, you really need to go watch it. It's amazing. It is an older Japanese movie. And essentially, there's a person trying to figure out a story of what happened. And it's told from 5 or 6 different viewpoints. It's been a good long while since I've seen it. But every viewpoint, the events are depicted differently depending on who's talking about it. There's one of the people who was there, another one who was there. There's a person who only just witnessed the event. I think there's someone who's like a medium who was talking about the point of view of the person who died Again, it's been a long time since I've seen Rashomon. But it's very much, here's the story. We're going to tell it from this different perspective. Here you go. And seeing this episode structured like that, it's a very creative thing for anyone to do, for any given serialized crime drama. But Blindspot, again, using the timing of the explosion and the timing of the announcement, pulled it off extremely super well. Like, I thought this was incredibly well done. So the tattoos are numbers in the fingerprints of a hand tattoo on Jane, and it turns out that the numbers are the ups and downs of the football program at Hudson University, which Zapata recognizes because she got the sports page from her Gambling Anonymous group. So she's figured that out. She brings it into Patterson. Everyone's like, dang, Zapata, well done. I'm like, bless, super good. And so they go to look at Hudson University. It's had some investigations into scholarship fraud. The investigations came back clean. However, someone from a big sports apparel company got promoted to president of the university, and they basically think that the investigations may have been paid off by a very cushy job. Chat saying, we're not sure whether or not sister is still at Jenny's or whether she's moved back in. The last that we knew, she'd moved out, but then Weller just said, I live with my sister and her 10-year-old son, so question mark? We don't really know. It's a bit of a he said, she said, which is the entire episode, again, if we're basing it off of Rashomon. So we don't quite have that detail figured out. I'm sure we'll see it at some point next episode down the line, whatever, soonish. So they go to investigate Hudson University. They run into Coach Jones, who was someone Reed knew when he was a kid doing the football camp there. So, they knew them. The president cuts off that conversation very quickly. And then when they're starting to leave the university, all of their comms cut out because there's a radio jammer, and then it turns out there is an active shooter inside the building. And this is when we start cutting to, we see flashbacks 4 hours ago, 3 hours ago, wherever we see Reed talking with his tailor about, lifestyle changes and going through a breakup and all that fun stuff. And I keep saying all that fun stuff. None of it's really fun. This is all kind of tragic. Let's be real. And we see that. We see Weller with his dad. We see Jane having a tea she actually likes and talking with Oscar about seriously don't leave. We see Zapata with her group. All of that fun stuff. That is my crutch. I need to figure out something else fun to say. Chat, I need something else fun to say as a placeholder. Help me out here. I'd love to see your suggestions on this one. Yeah. And this is where they all split up, and we don't get to see the story play out at the same time because, again, the comms are off. We don't see what else happens for anyone. We go with Zapata first. She splits up. She works downstairs, I believe. She finds the shooter in the calf. She finds someone who has been shot in the leg in the calf. One of the football staffers has to tourniquet his leg. Like, guys, that's not a fun thing to do. That hurts. We've hit all hail the bow tie, and bow ties are cool in chat at this point. And it's good to know I have some Whovians watching. Well done, ladies and gentlemen. So we have Zapata. She's trying to chase the shooter. The guy who got his leg shot says, please help me. He winds up leading her into an auditorium because there's an exit. The shooter catches up with them there. And unfortunately, she is out of ammo. So they're basically pinned down by this shooter. Cut away from her. And we wind up with Jane after that. Yep, we go from Zapata unfortunately being tied down to Jane. Jane takes the upstairs with Weller, goes with him. Weller doesn't want to split up. Jane insists that they do because, hey, we need to cover more ground. She sees the shooter in the gym pursuing a victim. She goes after him. Sadly, the campus security catches up with her, which this poor guy... I feel like this campus security officer was still a student or may have just graduated. He looked very young. He was very skittish. You don't look like the FBI is not really a good reason to disbelieve that someone is in the FBI. Like, what does an FBI person look like? Whatever they want to. You ask to see their badge. Then again, does Jane have a badge? Have we ever seen her flash her badge? Has she been assigned one? We just don't know. So we'll see. But yeah, she actually disarms him and then tells him, look, no, we need to work together. I'm pursuing the shooter. They went this way. Here's your gun back. Let's go. Please don't point the gun at me. Which I feel so bad for this poor campus security officer. Worst day on the job ever. That's rough. Nothing prepares you for that. So they chase him. They find the university president. She has been shot in the stomach. This is not a good place to be. And they're in the cafeteria, so Jane finds a metal spatula, the type of which you'd use for grilling, which is fortunately over an open flame because it was being used for grilling, brings it back and cauterizes the poor woman's stomach wound with a heated metal spatula. Ugh. Yikes. It's very smart. It's a very good way to stop the bleeding. It's amazing. Boy, did that look like it hurt. So yeah, that's Jane's part of things. She tells the security guard to take the president, get them out of there, continues on, finds the auditorium where Zapata is, takes the shooter down, helps cuff him, and that's the first time that we hear the explosion. And so we know that the explosion's happening. We knew that last week from the preview. And we cut to Weller, see him with his dad, see him split ways with Jane. And then he is actually the first one to find the bomb. Sees it, tells kids, don't run through this door. There's a bomb here, don't do the thing. Leads them to safety. Breaks out a window and climbs around the 3rd floor of the building to get back into another classroom. Like, holy cow, dude. Before he can disarm a bomb, he gets the kids out. He finds Levi, one of the Levi Hart, one of the football students who had just been kicked out because of a drug charge. Finds him, turns out he's one of the active shooters, is unable to stop him before the explosion, essentially gets, taken out by the explosion, and Levi gets away. They finally manage to take out the jammer and call Mayfair and say, hey, no one's managed to get a hold of Reed. There's an active shooter here. They took our radios out. Like, this is an issue. Let's do this thing. And Reed, his part of this story was probably the hardest to watch. Partially because we got the plot reveal, because he was talking with Levi, and partially because of Valerie. God bless Valerie. That just, oh man. And you hear stories about this happening at shootings, about how people shielding their loved ones and paying for it with their lives. And it just, And him being able to get Valerie up and bring her out and bring this other group of students and try to lead them to safety and then accidentally trigger a bomb. He pulls down on the door handle. It essentially pulls the pin out of a grenade, and the grenade triggers all of these other explosives that are wired to it. So he tells everyone to run. Valerie, again, God bless Valerie, sticks around and asks how she can help. And so she gives him one of her earrings to use as a replacement pin. He tells her to run. Yeah, that pin, the earring is not a very good replacement pin. It lasts 0 seconds when he lets go of the door. Long enough for him to get like 5-6 feet away so he's not right at the blast, but definitely enough to knock him over for a bit. And we have a Totem Psi Clinic saying, as an ex-military guy, I can guarantee one thing. In real life, pin is off the grenade, Reed is dead. Yeah, that's kind of what I figured, but drama. Just drama. Same reason that we have a Weller running around with stitches that still really haven't closed. So, you know what? Whatever works for this show. You just kind of roll with it after a point. Yeah. So Reed gets up and Levi finds him, puts a gun to his head, demands to know where Coach Jones is. Oh, I left him over here. Walk with me. Which is the best way of not getting shot when a shooter wants to know where someone is. So he basically walks with Levi. The comms come back on. He manages to get everyone his location. Just, I don't remember what room he's in, but if you get me to the field house, I can take you to him. Just get me to the field house. So, of course, the rest of the team is waiting at the field house, but he's talking with Levi, wanting to know what happened. And Levi tells him, did you know the coach? Did you do this? Did he ever give you a ride home? Did he ever invite you in for dinner? And then it turned into watching the game. And then it turned into sexual abuse because Coach Jones is a pedophile. And that's, this whole episode is just full of things that are really not good. Understatement, all of Blindspot ever, but nonetheless. And Levi and the other shooter were going to, they were going to come clean. They were going to blow the whole thing wide open. And that's when Levi got hit with the drug charge and essentially expelled. And that destroyed his credibility. So they couldn't say, hey, well, this person is doing this. Yeah, well, you just got expelled for drugs. So who are you to say that? So that makes all of the sense. And right before they hit the door to the field house, Reed turns around and says, look, I believe you. We can help you. I'm trying to find the best way to get you out of here alive. There is another way. And Levi basically tells him, I died a long time ago. Walks out the door, Weller shoots him. So, yeah, just tons of fun. Tons of fun for the whole team. Super great. So they find the coach. He's on a stretcher. He's one of the people who's been shot in the shoulder. And Reed straight up tells him, if what those boys said is true, I'll find out, I'll find you, and I'll put you away myself. Holy cow, Reed. Dang, dude. Which I can't blame him. This has not been an easy episode for anyone, but ostensibly it's been about the worst for him. And it turns out that Levi was absolutely right, that the scholarship fund was how the university doled out hush money to the victims, and that, of course, they keep the coach because he had a winning record. And I don't think I need to say this, but yeah, this happens in real life all the dang time. And that does not make it okay. But you can, I wouldn't recommend Googling this because it's probably not good for your soul, but you can Google this and see so many instances in real life where it's been, this coach was paid off, this was this coach did this football player did this, but none of it ever came to light because it was being covered up. He was the star player. He was the winning coach. They had the winning team. Like, obviously football is more important than your livelihood and well-being. Sports! Which is not the case. That, yeah, treating people like human beings really should come above all that other sorts of stuff. And unfortunately, that is not always what happens. So that is the long and short of that, unfortunately. And we have a nice little moment with Weller pulling a bottle of Black Label out of his locker and offering to share it with Reed. And just having that moment with them talking to each other and like, yeah, knowing it's not your fault doesn't make it any easier to handle. But for now, just, have a drink with me, breathe, we'll get through it. It'll be okay. And I thought that was a really good moment just between the two of them, because usually when we have these two sitting down and talking, they're butting heads over Jane. They have differing opinions on something. One of them's dating the other person's sister. Yeah. A lot of what we've seen between the two of them has been contention, born of friendship and partnership and trust, yes, but it's still been a lot of contention. So to just have this moment of, oh yeah, they are really good friends and part of a team and there for each other, like, it doesn't necessarily make everything we saw better, but it helps. And so I think that was a good way to end the procedural part. We had a few good ways to end the personal parts. We ended the episode itself with Tom the Vampire in cold storage. Yeah, heck of an episode, you guys. Not an easy one to watch by any stretch of the imagination. Megan Yen, I think I'm saying that right. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. In the chat, wow, this show is not good for my faith in humanity, especially this episode. Well, the thing about this show is it pulls everything from the headlines, not directly names, but like these are stories that happen. The missing flight, the sex traffic ring, the sexual abuse being covered up in a football program. But the thing is, telling it through the lens of fiction, you're able to empathize without, I'm not quite sure how to approach this point. Like, I know what I'm trying to say, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to find the right words here. Approaching it through fiction helps, especially when we've been desensitized to a lot of the news. Like, no one wants to watch the news anymore. It's all depressing. Oh my God. But this brings your attention to it, doing it through a fictional narrative. It brings your attention to these stories, to these headlines, in a way where you're able to take it or leave it. You're able to do it through these characters that we have come to empathize with and care about. The fictional helps us to better deal with the very real aspects of the stories. And it helps us to better understand them and honestly to care about them more. I feel like after an episode like this, people are going to be more aware of, okay, this is a thing that's happening. And maybe it's not going to immediately incite change. Maybe it's not going to. But this is the sort of thing where, oh, I've seen this before. Oh, I've seen it from the victim side. Okay, this is what happens. Maybe we should work to change things like this so they're no longer an accepted part of our infrastructure. Like, I'm hoping that that's what we can do through this show, because it's very much a ripped from the headlines sort of thing, but it's a little less visceral when it's got that thin veneer of fiction over it. So that got really real. So we've got about 20 minutes left. It's me, myself, and I. So I am going to do something that we haven't done on this show before. We're going to do call-ins. So if you are watching live, if you're in the chat, if you're doing any of that fun stuff, and you have Skype on your computer, I have the studio's Skype phone number. So if you would like to call in and chat with me for a few minutes and be on the podcast, I'm going to give you guys that phone number. A couple of ground rules. You do need to be air appropriate. So, don't swear, be nice. Keep it at about the level that Stephanie and I do so we can be good human beings to each other. That is pretty much the ground rule. And depending on how many people call in, I may only talk with you for a couple minutes apiece because, hey, everyone wants their chance. So, yes, that Skype number, for those of you who are listening, is 424-256-1633. Again, 424-256-1633. So call in. We're going to have a little bit of a delay because, yay, chat. So in the meantime, I'm going to talk to you guys about iTunes, because iTunes is a good and wonderful thing, and that's how you can hear our podcast if you like the audio version, if you want to be able to listen to it on your long or possibly not so long commute, or during whatever, if you're doing the chores, or, just when it's a good time to listen to a podcast, you can do that through iTunes without having to distract yourself. And if you go onto iTunes, if you like us and subscribe and rate us 5 stars and leave a comment, that is how you tell our producers, we really like this after show for Blindspot. We really want them to keep talking about Blindspot. And guys, we have like 4 episodes left. This show ends at some point mid-May, end of May. Like, it does not go all the way through June. We are closing in on the season finale. So if you have not left a review yet, now is a really good time to do it, and we really super appreciate it. So yes, if you are able to do that, that would be great. If you do leave a review, we do read them out loud on the show. We haven't had a new review in a couple weeks, so we haven't really had anything to read aloud. But yes, do the thing, win the stuff. I think we are still waiting to see if anyone calls in on Skype. Is that a thing that has occurred, wonderful engineer? Probably not yet. All right.
Hi, Katie. Yeah, here in the booth. Still waiting on the calls.
All right. That is what happens when you talk through a 1.5-minute long delay. Can you do me a favor and put the number in the live chat so they have it?
Sure thing, Katie.
That would be great. In the meantime, I am going to go ahead and swing into predictions, chat a little bit about those in a moment. Yep, there we go. I know I didn't give you a lot of warning. Thank you.
AFTERBUZZ TV predictions.
So goodness knows what the heck they're going to do for Tom. Like, we have no idea what they are going to do with Tom the Vampire's body, only that they have the body in the freezer for some reason, and Oscar may or may not want to do what it is that they are planning on doing. Yeah, aside from that, the preview that we get is of this, I like to say 12-year-old because that tends to be my usual age range for kids, but she could be anywhere from like 8 to 14. She is a tiny child. Winds up coming in, she is bloodied up, she's probably been hospitalized, and she didn't speak at all in the preview, so we don't know. But she has a notepad and she's drawing, and she draws one of Jane's tattoos. Like, it matches perfectly with the with one of the tattoos on Jane's body. And so she's drawn that. We have a clip of her drawing what looks like it might be the Capitol building. We're not sure. And so the big question is, who is this girl? Why is she drawing Jane's tattoos? What the heck is going on? Et cetera, et cetera. So we just don't know. It should be fun and interesting. And, you know, we get the usual action explosions. We have to have things go boom and gunfire and whatnot because this is that kind of procedural show on occasion. So, yes. Megan says Dr. Borden is back. Yes, Dr. Borden is back. Finally. I miss him when he doesn't show up. He is a good human being and one of my favorites. And now that Dead David has mentioned it, I kind of ship him with Patterson. Like, I would be down for that. That would be fun and interesting. I think we're still waiting to see if anyone has called in on Skype, but I'm kind of at the point where I don't have a heck of a lot more to talk about. So if a call doesn't happen within another minute or two, I am going to go ahead and wrap this up. In the meantime, that also leaves me working for a minute or two. So I am going to pull up the hashtags, see if we've got anything fun in there from you wonderful hashtag people. If it'll load, because the internet hates me today.
Katie, also, if I may.
Please.
The movie, what was it? Rashomon. That was directed by Akira Kurosawa, and that was a murder trial filmed in black and white. Very, very awesome film. A very excellent reference. I highly recommend it.
Thank you for knowing a heck of a lot more about it than I do. I'd forgotten it was a Rashomon film, but yeah, a Rashomon film, a Kurosawa film.
Yeah.
Wow, my brain.
I believe it was in 18th century Japan, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I saw it in 11th grade in Theory of Knowledge class, so it has been a good long while. But yeah, that is how this episode was structured, in the multiple stories, multiple different viewpoints. So yeah, if you guys have not seen Rashomon, you really, really should.
Yeah, absolutely.
Leave a comment in the YouTube channel if you have seen it, or if you go out and watch it, come back and tell us what you think. Tell us what you think of the episode. Yeah, I know we've been renewed for season 2, you guys. That we got that around episode like 8. I think, like, we got renewed for season 2 pretty dang quickly. They really like this show at the network. We don't have a lot on Twitter, just Shaft Almazy saying if I was part of this task force, I would carry extra clips. In a reference to Zapata running out of ammunition. Yep, definitely. And then Joseph Ortiz asking us if we believe that Tom is dead. Like, I believe that Tom is dead for like 6 episodes at this point. So yeah, I'm down. Looks like the majority of chat does not have Skype and are not able to call in. So I think at this point we can probably call it good. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and for being my co-host tonight. I really appreciate it. You guys are lifesavers. I am Katie Cullen. You can find me on Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, and YouTube at Kiaxet. That's Kiaxet. I am also available on Snapchat at Kia Prime. It's mostly Disneyland and cat pictures because that is how I live my life. I'm on Turn. Turn just started earlier today, so that's going to be on Tuesdays going through the summer. Arrow is finally coming back starting tomorrow night, so that is going to be fun and interesting. Transformers Robots in Disguise, as always, is on Sunday. We're closing in on the last 4 episodes. It's a short season this time around. And Red vs. Blue is back. We're going to start doing those after shows soon. We need to get that date nailed down. But yes, I am on all sorts of shows. Be sure to follow Stephanie as well. She is a lovely human being. She will be back next week, hopefully with a bottle of wine in tow. And we will see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.